Have you been learning the piano mostly by ear? Have you reached a point now where you want to learn pieces with sheet music, but you're not sure how to do it? Then watch this video because I'll be giving you 7 tips to help you make the transition more easily. And make sure you watch until the end of the video because I'll be giving you 3 things you must avoid at all costs if you want to switch to sheet music faster. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Manu from Piano Sight Reading, where I give sight reading tips to piano players. I received a comment recently on my channel from someone called Golden Lamb, and they were saying that they had been learning the piano by ear and now they wanted to switch to sheet music, but they weren't sure how to go about it. So I thought I would do this video to give a comprehensive answer to this question. Now, if you're still watching this video, then chances are you can relate to Golden Lamb's question. You probably see the value in learning pieces with sheet music, but maybe you're still at a stage where you're not super convinced of the value of learning with sheet music. If that's you, I recommend you watch this video here, which explains why you should learn to read music. Once you've done so, then come back to this video and watch the rest of it. Now, my first tip is going to sound obvious, but it's to learn to read music if you haven't already. At the very least, I would learn to read the notes that are in the middle range of the piano and to learn the common note values such as semi-breve, minims, crotchet and quavers. At least those 4. There are many apps out there such as NoteQuest, Tenuto and Note Trainer, where you can learn the notes individually. If you're already familiar with music, then you may want to revise some of the notes. Maybe you're not so familiar with the bass clef, or you're a bit hazy with the note values, so that's where I would start. Now, my next tip is see if you can find the score of pieces you've learned previously by ear. And when you do that, make sure that the score you find is in the same key as the version you learnt. And if you're not sure how to do that, just look at the starting note and make sure it's the same note as the one you use when you play that piece. What I'd like you to try to do is to have the sheet in front of you and listen to a recording and see if you can follow the notation with the recording. And this can help with making the connection between the notation and the sounds, what you hear. If you feel ambitious, what you could do is have this same score and actually try and play the piece with the score. So this is a piece you've already learned by ear, but see if you can follow the notes while you're playing the version you learnt. Don't be surprised if it doesn't always match, because probably when you learnt by ear, it wasn't always accurate. But that's, I think, a good exercise to do to build the connection between notation and sounds. If you're wanting to learn a new piece, say you heard something on the radio or on social media and you really liked the sound of it, then go and get the sheet music. You may be tempted to go straight to the piano and work it out, but since you want to switch to sheet music, stop there and go online or in a store and try to find the sheet music. I would strongly recommend that you print the sheet music and that you put it either in a folder or at least in a plastic sleeve, because we all know what happens to loose paper. It tends to just get lost somewhere, or it gets all crumpled up and it doesn't last very long. So try to have a system where you have the loose paper in a folder or a plastic sleeve. Otherwise, if you do lose the sheet of paper, you may then just go back to learning by ear, and that's not what we want. My next tip is actually read the music. It's not enough to just put the music on the music stand and then figure out by ear, right? You have the music and use the music. If it helps, pretend that you don't know how it sounds, and the only way to play the music is to look at the notes and the rhythm. But maybe it's even easier in your case to find something that you don't know, a piece that you don't know. It could be by the same composer, so a composer that you like, but see if you find a piece that you don't know. That way you have no other choice but to read the music. At this early stage, you may have days where you're just about ready to give up. You might think, oh, this is too difficult. Why can't I just figure out by ear? It would be so much easier. When you get these thoughts, just remind yourself of why you're wanting to switch to sheet music. Remind yourself of the problems you were encountering when you were playing by ear, because I'm sure there were problems you were dealing with when playing by ear. So just remind yourself of the reason why, and that should help you persevere. Tip number 5 is to start from different places in your music. At the start, when you're first learning, it's okay to start from the beginning. But once you've done that a few times, test yourself and try to go from different bars in the music. Just pick a random bar, go straight from that bar. And what this does, it really forces you to read what is in that bar. You can't rely on your oral memory, and you can't rely on your muscle memory. You have no other choice but to read exactly what's in that bar. At every session, just pick another random bar. Okay, I'm going to start from here. Okay, now I'm going to start from there. You'll see that this is really going to help you read what's on the score. Now, if you do happen to get stuck, maybe you see a symbol or a note or a rhythm you're not sure about. When that happens, try not to rely on your ears, but see if you can somehow figure it out from the score. So say you have a note which is quite hard to read, maybe a note on ledger lines. Well, use the notes that you do know, and from those notes, try figuring out the note you're having trouble figuring out. Same with rhythm. If you're not sure about a rhythm, take it apart. So first work out whether the problem is in one of the hands or whether it's putting the hands together. If the issue is with putting the hands together, see if you can tap the rhythm. So that's tapping the left hand rhythm with the left, the right hand rhythm with the right. That will help you solve the rhythm confusion. And my last tip is to use your ears. Now, just because you're trying to switch from ear to sheet music, it doesn't mean you have to ignore your ears for the rest of your life. You actually have an advantage in having good ears. Use your ears to reinforce what you learn through the sheet music. Use your ears to reinforce the connection between what you see and what you hear. Now, just a word of caution. If you happen to be someone who likes to play pop music, just be aware that reading sheet music for pop music could be quite difficult, because in most pop songs you have a lot of syncopation in the accompaniment. So syncopation is where you have the weaker beats accented. It could be like da 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 da. It's instead of da 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 da. That's very straightforward, but often in pop music it's not straightforward at all. On top of that, the melody, which is normally sung, again, it will most likely be full of syncopation, because when you think of a singer, they rarely sing on the beats. They're quite free, and so in the notation, it tries to portray this freedom, this freeness, but then it ends up looking very syncopated. Plus, it's only an approximation of how it sounds, so you may actually get confused because it doesn't quite sound like the song, and you might be tempted to just use your ears. That defeats the purpose. If you want to learn pop music with sheet music, I would actually try to start with other types of music first, something a bit more straightforward. When you have the gist of it, you can try pop music. As promised, here are 3 things you should avoid at all costs if you want to switch to sheet music. Number 1 is avoid labeling every single note in your score. I know you may be tempted to spend the first 10 minutes writing down every single note so that you don't have to think, but that's the surest way to slow down your progress, because then you'll just read what you wrote. You won't actually read the music. If you need more practice in reading the notes, again, use apps, or what you could do is make a copy of the piece you're working on, and on that copy, write down the names of the notes. But on the copy you're using to learn the piece, it should be free of labels. Now, another thing to avoid is putting the music aside as soon as possible. Again, you may be tempted to learn the notes and the rhythm, and then as soon as you get the gist of it, okay, I don't need this anymore, and then you're trying without the sheet music, but then probably your ears will start working again. Even if you think you know the piece, still have the music in front of you and still read it, because there's always going to be details that you haven't noticed yet. It could be dynamics, it could be phrasing, it could be pedal markings. Still use the music. And lastly, in your case, avoid listening to recordings of the piece while you're still learning the piece. Normally it's good practice to hear what the piece sounds like when you're learning the piece, but in your case, because you want to not rely so much on your ears, avoid listening to recordings while you're still learning the notes. Once you've got all the notes and rhythm worked out, then you can start listening to recordings if you want, but try avoid at the start. Okay, well, these were my tips and things to avoid to switch from ear to sheet music. I hope this helps. I would love to know in the comments which of these tips you're going to try. Hopefully it's all of them. And Golden Lamb, if you're watching, please keep us updated. Let us know how you get on. Of course, it's going to take some time. It's not going to be overnight, but I would love to know if any of the suggestions actually help. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Happy sight reading!